This is the all-new Google Pixel Watch 4. It is Google's biggest leap in the smartwatch ever that I've seen. 50% brighter screen, Google Gemini on your wrist, dual band GPS for better accuracy in running, outdoor cycling, and all those sorts of things. Fast charging on your watch, better battery life. But I wanted to know, how well does it work in real life? So I spent a little over the past week testing it out. So here are my thoughts. Now the design and display. So there is an all-new 3000 nit display, which is on par with the Apple Watch Ultra 3. It is gorgeous, it is stunning, and it is bright. You can view it when you're running outside, you're trying to view the apps on the screen in the outdoors. It is plentiful. I think at 3000 nits, we've hit the point where like anything above that's diminishing returns. So I feel like this is the new standard for any kind of outdoor strong watch. The screen is 10% larger with the bezels being 16% smaller. There is a new Actua 360 display and it is stunning, especially at angles when you try to look at the screen. It really feels premium. I do like the circular design and display. It just gives a different new look to it compared to these square styles that you get from Apple Watches that I'm personally used to. And it feels curvy. When you're scrolling through apps and you're looking at the edges, you can see the text expand as you scroll up. So I just love how stunning and beautiful it feels. Like, I've been playing with it and the experience feels real. Like, it feels so much better than the past Pixel watches that I've tested. The watch bands are super easy to take off, put on. I have one that's relatively easy to just put on my wrist. It looks very nice, simple and sleek, and you do have the crown which you can rotate, as well as one button next to the crown. I don't have a lot of bands to test it out with, but maybe if you want to see that video, let me know in the comments below and I can show you what different kinds of bands on the Google Pixel Watch 4 look like. Now, there are massive improvements in the performance and battery life. You're able to charge the watch from 0 to 50% in 15 minutes, which is insane because you want these bad boys to stay juiced and on your wrist and not off on the charger as long as possible. There's a 30 to 40 hour rated battery life and a 48 to 72 hour in battery saver mode, depending on the size watch that you get. So I've found, like, I turned off always on display and I can sleep with the watch on, wake up the next day, do an entire day of activities and still have like 60% of battery left. So knowing that I can get almost 2 days of full battery life on this watch is next level compared to most smartwatches out there. And it does have cellular. I do have Google Fi on here and I'm doing workouts and things like that. So I'm definitely using the watch to the full extent. I think with most smartwatches, getting in the habit of like, I charge it while I brush my teeth or take a shower and you can get enough juice to last the next day. That's really important. And I think we have that on the Google Pixel Watch 4. Now, but the one issue with the charging is that the charger is different. It is slightly different. So you charge it on the side rather than on the back. I like the standby and like this on the side setup, but I am a bit disappointed that the charger has changed. If Apple changed their chargers, I'd be more mad because if I go to my friend's house and I want to use their Apple Watch charger, usually they'll have the same exact one and it works. Whereas with the Pixel Watch, it's now swapped, it's different. You know, we didn't love when we switched from Lightning to USB-C, but we loved it at the same time. Still dealing with the, oh, I have the old charger, like this will last, you know, it's like a 5-year period where people will have both styles. And if you want to borrow a friend's charger, you can't really do that until that 5-year era is over. Now, when it comes to health and fitness features, obviously I love running, just getting into cycling, weightlifting, high rocks, and I need to test to make sure that this watch also works for those features. It does have the new dual frequency GPS, so you're gonna get better and more accurate data, especially when you're in places with tall buildings. I live in New York City. Now let's compare the heart rate data versus the Apple Watch Ultra 3. I will do a more extensive test with GPS heart rate at the Chicago Marathon this Sunday. So if you wanna see that video with the Pixel Watch, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Shervin Shares. But here we're popping up the screen and the Ultra 3 is the bluish color. Pixel 4 is the red color. And I would say just looking at this general graph, this is a 4-mile easy run in New York City. There are no massive discrepancies, obviously some slight differences, but overall seem to be pretty close. The elevation, there are some differences in the graphs. One seems to have a more smooth elevation graph, whereas the Apple Watch Ultra does not. Now this was a 5-mile workout with a 2-mile tempo, so you can see that back half right about here, we increased my speed and heart rate. They were relatively close. I think somewhere in the beginning and then near the end, they might separate a little bit, but there are small discrepancies like right here. The Ultra 3 is a bit higher than the Pixel 4, but it's only like 3 beats per minute. Over here, we do have some differences as well. But overall speaking, maybe even in this dip right here, some differences of 152, 143. But overall, it seems to follow the trend pretty well. Then I ran one with a 970 Garmin Ultra 3 and Pixel Watch 4. We cannot regard the Garmin 970 because it was on my wrist, so the heart rate data is not good. That's why it pops out over here. But if we just look at the blue and the red, they're pretty close. Maybe at the beginning, we had the Pixel 4 jump up higher than the Ultra 3. but overall they seem to be relatively close. Next up, I did a 9-mile easy long run as my last big long run before the Chicago Marathon. And this one I try to kind of start in New York City and go down 10th Ave. As you can see here, I ran, I guess the light was red, so I was like, let's keep running. They all stuck pretty well when I was in the city. And then once you get to the West Side Highway, I think most watches can handle that pretty well. No big mistakes. The peers did a great job here. And then when we got more south, it looks like the Pixel 4 seemed to jump out a bit. But the Garmin 970, look at that. They're all on top of each other. Looks clean, pristine. This is very good. I think, oh, maybe here we can see the Pixel 4 jumps around. I did a little bit of a loop up here because the light was red. The Garmin 970 jumped off the track a bit too. The Ultra 3 seems to do the most smoothing, so it looks the cleanest from just a quick perspective. Over here, the Pixel 4 jumped out the most. And then I think once we get to that park at the bottom, you know, there are some discrepancies, but overall they are pretty good. Like if you just look at these GPS tracks, there are no massive differences, massive changes. Maybe a blip right here with the Pixel 4 jumping into the park area. But other than that, held pretty strong. I would say it's not amazing, top tier, but it is well done, Google Pixel. I think this is good enough for most scenarios and most people. If you want a smartwatch and you have a Google device, Android device, the GPS, very well. Bike, this one's definitely the easiest 10-mile bike up and down the West Side Highway on the bike path. And from the looks of it, this one just stayed on track. There were no issues with any of the watches I ran with the Ultra 3, and nothing here. Looks good. Like I would say that this looks pretty strong. Maybe here's some jumping out, but other than that, this one I think was pretty easy. It is New York City, but it is along the water, so it's even easier. If there are certain tests you want to see me run with the GPS of these watches, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make sure to make those happen. I do live in New York City, so it's easy to do some chaotic testing, and I'm happy to do it. Look at the elevation data. From a general high-level perspective, the Apple Watch seems to have more data points, whereas the Pixel 4 seems to be more smooth on a lot of these tracks, but general trends were relatively close. Even here you can see, I don't know, the Garmin 970 seemed to have stayed with the Ultra 3 and then it went below and then it came back. So I don't know which ones of those we can really trust here. They were separated, but then they came together on the bike ride. Close enough. I will plan to run the Chicago Marathon with this watch and 5 other watches, so subscribe if you want to see that video. There's a new bike real-time streaming feature where if I start a bike workout on the watch, I can also see the data on my phone. I do need to get a case where I can actually put it on my bike so I can show you that. But the Apple Watch has had that in their fitness app, and now they provide that for all fitness workouts. So I'd love to see Google Pixel update for that as well, where I can see my running workouts and everything on my phone while I'm doing the workout as well. Now, sleep tracking. I've been wearing this for about 7 to 10 days, and let's compare the sleep tracking data to a Whoop as well as my Apple Watch. I know they have a new sleep score. And the biggest thing I found, if you've ever watched any of my videos, sleep scores are all over the place. You can't compare them one to one. Like one will be super low and then the other two are high and then they kind of switch. There's no like common trend between all the devices because they calculate their readiness, their sleep scores, their recovery scores slightly differently. So it's very hard to say which one is the best, but Google Pixel Watch 4 does have an 18% improvement. They're using an AI sleep model. You look at the overall trends, like, hey, are you sleeping well? Are you sleeping enough? Rather than getting really into the details, like I had a low sleep score last night, what did I do? And then trying to change your life behaviors based on sleep scores, I would look at the overall trends and be like, kind of what's happening in my life now, and that might be negatively impacting my sleep. How can I remove it? There's just some core pillars to sleep that you can implement in your life, and your sleep scores will generally increase. So don't obsess, but use it as a tool to be better. Now, one thing on the sleep tracking is that it comes ready and with auto bedtime guidance on, where it turns on auto bedtime tracking on and off. I think on the Apple Watch and some other devices, you have to like set it up, and most people don't do that. So having it pre-ready where I can just put the watch on and sleep with it and I get a sleep score the next day, that is a subtle yet powerful piece to sleep tracking that I really, really love. Readiness and cardio load. So it seems like the cardio load is very similar to the Whoop strain score. I feel like they're trying to compete. The numbers and the scales are drastically different, so you can't really look at them at a one-to-one scale, but I do like the concept of doing more cardiovascular workouts. The Whoop initially did inspire me to start doing more cardio, running, you know, anything that got my heart racing and going faster because I just loved weightlifting. So I love that the Pixel Watch 4 is now incorporating a cardio load feature. I think any data point that can inspire people to do better lifestyle behaviors is valuable. but when it becomes too obsessive, that's where it gets a bit dangerous. So I love seeing these little scores in there to help, but maybe we just have to teach everyone to not obsess over it too much. There's also the ECG and irregular heart rhythm, as well as a no pulse detection, I think it's called. So it's able to figure out, hey, you have no pulse, let's call emergency services. If there's a potential risk for AFib, having an ECG to check that, to say, hey, should I go to my doctor? That is extremely valuable. They call it loss of pulse detection, which obviously it's gonna be a bit hard to test. There's also sleeping, skin temperature tracking, fall detection, crash detection. I think all these are becoming standard in most of the major smartwatches as well as smartphones. So having these life-saving technologies, like people don't talk about it and you can't really test it as much, but I think it's gonna save so many people's lives, and I love that there's just this subtle layer of tech that can help prevent us from, bad things happening. The all-new Gemini and AI experience. There's a new raise to talk feature, which we've kind of had on the Apple Watch where you can raise and talk to Siri. Now we have the full power of Gemini. It lights up like Gemini on the bottom and it starts to display what you're saying out loud. Gemini is next level powerful. I think Siri and Apple Intelligence are good and they can do certain things, but Gemini is directly more comparable to like ChatGPT, Claude, and all these other advanced LLMs, and being able to have that on my wrist connected to my Google accounts is something that is extraordinary. I can be like, hey, what are my most important unread emails of the day? I asked it, whatever emails that I must reply to that I haven't replied to, and it gave me a list of things, and I was like, oh no, I'm so bad at emails. If you're a brand and I'm bad at replying to you, I'm sorry. I'd love to focus on content and not on emails. But if I can use Gemini to reply to people better, I would love that. So being able to do that quickly on my wrist is so powerful. The raise to talk feature though, I've noticed on all watches that I've tested, it works like 90% of the time, but it's like when you have that 10% or 5% or 1% where it doesn't activate because you're holding something or your wrist wasn't all the way down. So when you're lifting it, it's like a slight wrist and not a full raise, and the feature doesn't work as well as you want. It becomes to the point where it's like, I'll just press the button to activate it because I know with certainty that it's going to work. Like if you have a light switch or versus a smart home light switch, I know my smart home light switches work 70% of the time, but if I have a manual light switch and I just on off, every single time you hit that on off, it's going to work. 99.9% of it. For some reason, it just doesn't work all the time. And it's nice to have and it can be convenient, but when it doesn't work in those scenarios, you begin to lose trust. And I think raise to talk in almost all watches is like that for me. They're actually now full on smart reply, so it's very good at understanding context and being able to do a real smart reply. On my Apple Watch, it's just kind of like the standard set, and it expands a little bit, but it's not as strong and as effective. So I really love seeing those on the Pixel Watch 4. It feels like it's actually useful with Google Gemini, whereas like other AIs on watches just haven't gotten to that level. Now safety, when you're able to contact emergency services, hey, this is what I need, this is what's happening, maybe it's just a car broken down or you need help. Being able to do that almost anywhere with no connection, that is a game changer, a lifesaver. And I love that it's becoming a standard in almost all these smartwatches, and I hope to see that, in the next 5 years, we'll be able to get connection and get help anywhere we are in the world. I truly believe that, and I love that technology is advancing in that direction. There's fall detection that has built-in LTE, and I can unlock my Pixel 10 Pro with the watch, and it's extremely fast, and I love that feature. I think it's just crazy how many life-saving features are now in the Google Pixel Watch 4, and every other watch manufacturers, like they're all pushing each other to be better and better. And I think that competition of like we're inserting more life-saving features, which not everyone's going to use or know about, but when it gets to the point where they need it, it's going to be there. And lastly, quality of life improvements. We've got the new Material 3 UI. So when you're swiping around, it looks stunning. I've had some moments where it did lag a little bit when I first pull up the watch, but overall, this Pixel Watch 4 has felt more smooth than any other Pixel Watch that I've ever tested. It feels very similar to the Pixel phones, because before it was a bit slow, but now it just feels very clean and responsive. And I think that's very important, having a watch that you want to use. You don't want it to feel slow. You want it to be like responsive and almost feel natural to real life. There are new custom heat feet. There's all new custom haptics. There's a water lock where if you're working out or going in the water, you can turn on the water lock and it ejects that out of the speakers. There are some new bands like Lemongrass, Moonstone, Gradient Stretch Band 2.0. I don't have any of these, but if you want to see videos, let me know. Now, overall thoughts, what do I think? I feel like the Pixel Watch 4 has jumped leaps ahead in terms of the AI, the fitness features, safety features. It has everything. The design looks clean. It works well. The battery lasts a decent amount of time. And I feel like if you have a Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro, which I will do a review on that, so subscribe if you want to see that video, this is one of the better watches. With a dual frequency, You're getting great tracking for running. It feels like a great smartwatch. You can do your daily activities, pay for things, notifications, messages. The Gemini integration with all of your Google content and emails is next level. This is just like, it just feels like the whole ecosystem is really building. And I want to do a deeper comparison of the Google versus the Apple ecosystem. So if you want to see that video, let me know in the comments below. Let me use my Google Pixel Samsung watch with an iPhone. I know no one really wants to do that, but I think someone needs to be the bigger person and say, hey, our watch, although we might not be able to do all the things if you have a different phone, it works in a different ecosystem. And maybe it just won't create a great experience, and I understand that too, but I would love to see one that works everywhere. If you do plan to buy it, there should be links down below. My name is Shervin Shares. Follow me on all the socials at Shervin Shares. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.